A hidden speaker crackled. Then a voice, cold, mechanical, and unfamiliar, spoke in a distorted tone neither of them recognized. Phase 1. Complete. Shreya stood up quickly. That voice. It's not from the station, Marcus finished. They looked at each other. This wasn't just a mistake. Something was very wrong. Marcus took a step away from the door as the strange voice echoed through the speaker once more. The words were short, robotic, and cold. Phase 1. Complete. Then silence. No station announcement. No security warning. Just silence. Threya moved quickly to the wall console again, her fingers flying across the keys. Her long braid swayed as she focused, her bright violet eyes fixed on the strange signal logs. This system, it's been tampered with, she said, her voice serious. This room's controls were locked before we even arrived. Marcus felt his stomach twist. So, someone wanted us in here. She looked at him sharply. Maybe someone wanted you in here with me. That's not fair, Marcus replied. You saw it. The station told me to come here. You were already inside. Threya stood tall. Her presence had a quiet strength, even in confusion. This could be a trap, a test, or an attempt to cause a scandal. I'm just an assistant, Marcus said again. Why would anyone use me for something like this? She narrowed her eyes. Because you're human, and because you're not important enough for people to notice, until it's too late. Those words stung, but Marcus didn't argue. She wasn't trying to be cruel. She was just scared, like he was. They both listened for a moment. No sound came from outside. No rescue, no alarm. Okay, Marcus said carefully. Let's say someone did lock us in here on purpose. Why? What do they gain? If your people and mine start pointing fingers, Threya said softly, then peace breaks, and old fears return. Marcus nodded slowly. So this is political. Threya nodded back. Yes, and dangerous. She turned back to the console. I need to trace that voice. If we can find out where it came from, we might understand what's really happening. Marcus stepped forward. Can I help? She paused, looking at him with surprise. You're not trained in Elverian tech. No, Marcus said, smiling a little. But I've fixed broken coffee machines back home. And if this thing is broken, I might notice something useful. Threya blinked, then gave a small nod. Fine, but don't touch anything without telling me first. Marcus leaned closer, studying the screen beside her. It was covered in alien symbols, glowing soft blue and green. He didn't understand the language, but he noticed a blinking part on the edge of the display. What's that? He asked, pointing. That section's pulsing like it's waiting for input. Threya leaned in. Her eyes widened. You're right. That shouldn't be there. She tapped it. A hidden menu appeared, filled with encrypted code. This is not from the station's original system, she whispered. Someone uploaded a third-party control program. Marcus frowned. Can we delete it? She shook her head. No. If we tried, it might lock the entire station's systems or make things worse. They stared at the screen together, the quiet room suddenly feeling more dangerous than ever. Then, a new sound broke the silence. Footsteps, outside the door. Heavy boots. Threya froze. Marcus backed away from the console. Then, a knock. Not a gentle one. A sharp, hard knock. Open up, came a voice. It was deep but strangely blank, like someone trying to sound official. Threya stepped forward. Identify yourself. There was a pause. Then, security team. Station protocol. Open now. But something was off. The voice didn't give a badge code or speak in the usual diplomatic tone. That doesn't sound right, Marcus whispered. Threya agreed. Real security would use clearance phrases. Marcus glanced at the control panel. Can you see who's out there? She typed quickly. pulling up the room's internal camera system. The screen blinked on. Two figures stood outside, tall, armored, but without the standard station symbols. Their uniforms were dark, unfamiliar, and one of them held a small device in their hand, pointed at the door. "They're not from the station," Terea said, stepping back. "They're trying to force their way in." Marcus's heart raced. What do we do? She looked around, thinking fast. There's a maintenance hatch behind the shelf. It's narrow, but it leads to the ventilation system. Perfect, Marcus said. We can crawl out and... No, she cut in. You go. I'll hold them off. He stared at her. I'm not leaving you here. Terea hesitated, then nodded slightly. Fine, but we must move now. Together, they pushed the shelf aside. Behind it was a small hatch, barely big enough to fit one person. Terea pressed a button, and it slid open with a soft click. Just as the door behind them gave a loud thud, like someone trying to break in. They're starting to force the lock, Marcus said. In, Terea said. He climbed into the vent. She followed close behind. The hatch closed just as another loud bang hit the door. They crawled through the narrow shaft, the sound of footsteps echoing behind them. Neither of them knew who those people were. But it was clear now, this was no accident. Someone had a plan, and Marcus and Terea were right in the middle of it. The vent was tight, dark, and full of strange noises. Metal creaked. Warm air blew from hidden fans. Somewhere far below, machinery hummed with quiet power. Marcus crawled ahead, his palms sweating as he moved through the narrow shaft. Terea followed just behind him, moving with quiet grace even in a cramped space. We need to get to the maintenance hub, she whispered. It connects to the rest of the station's security lines. From there, we can check the real camera feeds and find out who those people were. Marcus nodded. How far is it? Not far, but we must stay quiet. If they tap into the vent sensors, they might track our heat signatures. Great, Marcus muttered. So we're basically glowing targets. Terea gave a small smile. Only if we stop moving. They crawled for several minutes in silence, turning corners and passing fans that buzzed faintly. Eventually, they reached a small panel. Terea tapped the side, and the metal hatch slid open with a soft click. They stepped out into a hidden maintenance room. It was dimly lit, filled with tools, wires, and a dusty computer console against the wall. This area is rarely used, Terea said. They probably don't know it still works. Marcus looked around. Kind of reminds me of my uncle's garage. Terea raised an eyebrow. Your uncle repairs stations. Marcus chuckled. No, he repairs broken hoverbikes and eats too many snacks. But he taught me how to fix things when I was younger. She smiled, then focused on the screen. We need answers. Fast. Together, they powered up the console. The screen flickered to life, showing old system logs and basic controls. Terea started typing. If I can access the security feed from an older backup line, we might see who gave the order to send you to that room. Marcus leaned closer. Wait. There. What's that log? She followed his pointing finger. A file marked Redirect. Human Meeting Room had a time stamp from just before Marcus entered room 47B. That's it, Terea said. Someone changed the destination in the hallway's guide system. Marcus's face tightened. So they planned for me to go to your room. And they made sure I would be there at that exact time. Terea added. It was all part of a setup. She pulled up another file, security footage from the outer hallway. It showed a figure in a black uniform, face hidden under a hood, tampering with the guide panel just minutes before Marcus walked by. That's not a station tech, Marcus said. No, Terea agreed. And they're not one of mine either. She scanned through more footage. The same figure later met two armored guards, the same ones who tried to break into the room. They handed over a small device, and vanished into a maintenance corridor. "They're working together," Marcus said. "They want us to look guilty, like this was some kind of secret meeting. If they succeed," Tereya said softly, "your people and mine could blame each other. Everything we've built could fall apart." Marcus looked at her. "So what do we do now?" Tereya didn't answer right away. She stared at the screen, thinking. Then she said, "We fight back." Marcus blinked. "I'm not exactly a soldier." "No," she replied. "But you think differently. You notice things I didn't. You're creative. That might be more useful right now." He smiled, a little embarrassed. "Thanks, I think." Tereya nodded. "We need to get this footage to someone we trust. Someone high enough to act fast, but not so public that the enemy finds out." Marcus tapped his chin. "My team lead, Officer Jamal. He's on the human side of the delegation. Honest guy. Hates politics." "Good," Tereya said. "Then let's send him the evidence." They uploaded the files onto a small drive hidden in the drawer. Tereya handed it to Marcus. "You'll take this. You're not coming." "I have to distract them," she said. "If I walk into the main corridor, they'll follow me. You'll have a better chance of reaching your people." Marcus frowned. "That's risky." "I'll be careful," she said with a small nod. "But we don't have much time." He hesitated, then took the drive and tucked it safely into his inner pocket. "If this works, we'll clear our names." Tereya gave him a look. "If it works, we might save the peace between our species." A long moment passed between them. Then she pressed the door panel. "Go now. I'll lead them away." Marcus slipped into the hallway, the cool air brushing his face as he moved. Behind him, Tereya stepped into another corridor, calm and confident, even as footsteps approached in the distance. Two very different people, from two very different worlds, now working together. Not just to escape, but to stop something much bigger than either of them expected. Marcus moved quickly through the quiet corridor, his heart racing. The small data drive felt heavy in his pocket. Each step felt longer than the last as he followed the old maintenance route Tereya had shown him. She was out there now, walking into danger to give him this chance. He had to make it count. The hallways of Unity Spire were no longer welcoming. Every sound made him flinch. Metal creaks, soft air vents, even his own footsteps. It all felt too loud, too risky. He couldn't tell who to trust anymore. After several turns and a quiet ride down an old service lift, he reached a lower level near the human side of the diplomatic wing. He peeked around the corner and spotted a familiar figure, Officer Jamal, tall and serious, speaking with two other staff members near a side terminal. Marcus stepped out quickly. "Officer Jamal." Jamal turned, surprised. "Marcus, where have you been? You missed the—" "Sir, we don't have time," Marcus interrupted. "I got proof. There's a setup. Someone's trying to cause a fight between the humans and Elverians." Jamal frowned. "Slow down. What are you talking about?" Marcus handed him the drive. "Check this. Tereya and I were locked in a room together on purpose. It wasn't a mistake. Someone changed the room directions, and fake security tried to capture us." Jamal looked down at the drive, then back at Marcus. "You were with an Elverian delegate. Alone." "Yes, but it wasn't my choice, sir. We found the logs. There's footage." "Sabotage." Jamal motioned to a secure room nearby. "Come with me." Once inside, he plugged the drive into a protected console. The screen lit up with security footage, hallway logs, and images of the mysterious hooded figure. The false security guards were clearly shown meeting with the unknown person. Jamal's face grew serious. "This is real. Someone went to a lot of trouble to hide this." Marcus nodded. "We think they want to ruin the peace talks. If they succeed, both sides might blame each other." Jamal tapped on the console. "This is enough to alert command. You stay here. I'll send this up." As Jamal left the room, Marcus sat on the edge of a chair, breathing deeply. His part was done. For now. But what about Terea? Was she safe? Meanwhile, on the other side of the station, Terea walked calmly through a busy corridor. She held her head high, the emergency beacon silently activated, an Elvarian distress signal sent to their diplomatic ship. It would take a few minutes, but someone would respond. She stared at the guards. "If you're not leaving," she said softly, "I suggest you be very careful about your next move." The taller one stepped forward. "You shouldn't have gotten involved. You were just supposed to stay in the room." Terea's eyes narrowed. "So you admit it." Before anything else could be said, a deep sound echoed above. Elvarian drones entering the space through the top vents. The two guards looked up. One shouted something in panic. They turned to run. But before they could escape, a blue net dropped from the ceiling, trapping them. Terea stepped back, breathing hard but still calm. Help had arrived. Back in the human section, Officer Jamal returned to Marcus. "Good news. Command believes you. They've already started checking other parts of the station, and you'll be happy to know your alien friend just caught 2 of the suspects in the garden area." Marcus smiled with relief. "She's amazing." Jamal nodded. "She's more than that. She might have just saved the peace talks." Marcus stood. "So what happens now?" Jamal tapped the side of his badge. "Now we clean up. And we make sure this never happens again." But deep in a hidden part of the station, far away from both sides, another figure watched the events unfold on a private screen. A different voice spoke into a recorder. "They were smarter than expected. But this isn't over." The screen flickered, then went black. The days that followed the confrontation in the garden were tense, but a sense of relief spread through the station. The mysterious sabotage had been uncovered, and both the human and Elvarian delegations were now fully aware of the threat that had nearly shattered their fragile peace. Marcus felt the weight of it all as he sat in a secure room, waiting for Officer Jamal to return. The data, the footage, and the evidence had been passed on to the higher authorities, and now it was only a matter of time before they began making arrests. But one question lingered in Marcus's mind. Where was Terea? After the garden incident, she had vanished into the station's labyrinth of hallways. Her last words to him echoed in his head. "I'll handle the rest. You take care of the evidence." He had trusted her then, and still did now, but the nagging feeling of uncertainty wouldn't leave him. What if she was in danger? What if they were watching her? The door to the room opened, and Officer Jamal stepped inside. "We've got trouble," Jamal said immediately, his face serious. "Terea's missing." Marcus jumped up. "What? How? She was supposed to be protected." Jamal didn't meet his eyes. "I think she knew too much." Marcus felt his heart drop. "What do you mean?" "The guards you saw earlier, the ones who were working with the saboteurs, they weren't the only ones involved. The entire incident was a setup from the top. Someone within the station's command is trying to shift the blame, make it look like the Elvarians were plotting something. Terea was the key to stopping it." Marcus's mind raced. "So they've captured her?" "I don't know," Jamal admitted, his voice tight. "But we're running out of time. If we don't find her now, whoever is behind this will silence her for good." Marcus didn't hesitate. "We need to find her. Fast." Jamal nodded. "I'm already working on tracking her communications. You focus on finding her last location. We'll move as one." Together, they hurried out of the secure room and into the station's crowded halls. Marcus kept his eyes forward, scanning the faces around him. Every corner, every person could be an enemy, every hallway a trap. Jamal turned down a side corridor, entering an area with fewer people. "This is where the comms were last active. She sent out a distress signal a few minutes ago. It's a long shot, but it's our best lead." Marcus felt his pulse quicken. "What now?" Jamal opened a nearby door, revealing a large map of the station's maintenance routes. "We start here." He began to tap buttons, highlighting certain sectors. This is a service tunnel that leads to a less guarded area. She might be using it to escape. If she's alive, we need to find her before they do. Marcus didn't wait for further instructions. He grabbed the nearest scanner and followed Jamal's lead down the corridor. The air grew colder as they moved deeper into the lower levels of the station. This part of the station was old, mostly abandoned. The walls were lined with pipes and cables, with only the dim glow of emergency lights casting faint shadows across the walkway. They moved quickly, passing locked doors and flickering security cameras. Marcus's thoughts kept drifting back to Taria. She was brave, smart, but so far, the forces against them had been one step ahead. How could they win this time? Suddenly, Jamal stopped. He motioned for Marcus to stay low, then pointed ahead. Up ahead, at the end of the hallway, two figures emerged from a side door. They were tall, cloaked in shadows, and moving with purpose. Marcus's heart skipped a beat. "They're Elverian," Jamal whispered. "But those are not the kind who help us." Marcus's breath caught. "You think they're working with the saboteurs?" "Absolutely," Jamal replied. "They've been compromised." He looked at Marcus. "We need to move fast." They took cover behind a stack of old crates. Marcus's mind raced as he tried to think of a way to deal with the Elverians. They were too well trained to simply take down. A confrontation wasn't an option, not with Taria's safety at stake. Jamal peered around the crates. "We have no choice. We have to get past them." Marcus nodded. He wasn't sure how they would do it, but he trusted Jamal's instincts. The two Elverians were walking slowly, unaware of the two humans hiding just a few feet away. Marcus's eyes shifted to a nearby control panel. It was simple, old-fashioned, but it would have to do. Without a word, he crawled toward the panel. His hands were shaking, but he focused, pressing buttons quietly. There was a hum, followed by a soft click. The hallway lights flickered and dimmed. It was enough to make the Elverians pause. Jamal moved quickly. He reached for a small, high-powered light stick and tossed it down the hallway. It rolled toward the Elverians, causing them to turn in confusion. Now was their chance. Marcus and Jamal sprinted down the opposite direction, their footsteps echoing in the quiet halls. "We're close," Jamal said, his voice urgent. Marcus didn't respond. His mind was elsewhere, on Taria. They rounded the corner and arrived at a small, hidden door at the end of the hall. Jamal quickly punched in the override code. The door opened with a soft hiss. Inside, the room was empty. But there, in the center, was a data console, glowing softly. Jamal rushed to the screen, tapping in a few commands. "This is it," he said. "Her last transmission came from here." A map of the station appeared, with a red dot blinking in one corner. Marcus's breath caught. "There," he said, pointing to the screen. "That's where she is." Jamal nodded. "Let's move." The air felt colder as Marcus and Jamal hurried down the narrow corridor toward the location on the map. They had no time to waste. The red dot on the screen had shown them exactly where Taria was, somewhere deeper in the maintenance tunnels, past the areas that the station's regular security could access. They moved swiftly, careful not to make any noise. Jamal led the way, his face hard with determination, while Marcus followed, keeping his focus on the task ahead. "This place feels off," Marcus muttered, glancing around at the dimly lit corridors. Jamal didn't respond at first, but Marcus could see the tension in his posture. "We're getting close. Stay sharp." They turned a corner and came upon a large, sealed door. The sign on the wall next to it was marked with an old code. It was a security checkpoint, most likely one of the places the station's command used to store sensitive equipment. "This is it," Jamal said, typing in the override code. Taria's signal came from behind this door. The console beeped, the red light turning green. The heavy door slowly slid open with a low hiss. Inside, the room was dark, lit only by the faint glow of a few scattered consoles and terminals. There were large storage racks against the walls, filled with boxes of old supplies. In the middle of the room, near a table, stood a figure. Tereya. She was standing perfectly still, her eyes closed, but her posture was tense. As Marcus and Jamal stepped inside, her eyes snapped open, and she immediately took a defensive stance. Tereya. Marcus called, his voice filled with relief. She looked at him, but her expression was unreadable. For a moment, there was silence as they all stood in the room, taking each other in. "You've been hiding here," Jamal said, his voice calm but with a hint of concern. "Why? What happened?" Tereya stepped back, her eyes still locked on Marcus. "I had to make sure they didn't follow me. They're always watching." Jamal looked around, sensing the tension. "We've been tracking your signal. We thought you were in trouble." "They are the ones in trouble," Tereya said, her voice low but firm. "You don't understand. The people behind the sabotage, they're much closer to the station's core than you think. This wasn't just a mistake, Marcus. This was all planned from the start." Marcus blinked in confusion. "What do you mean? Who are you talking about?" Tereya turned, walking over to one of the consoles. She tapped a few buttons, bringing up a series of encrypted files. "The sabotage was set up to frame our people, but the real problem isn't between humans and Elverians." She paused, looking at them both. "It's the people in charge of this station. They wanted to create chaos, to reset the power balance. They want control." Marcus's stomach dropped. "Wait, are you saying someone here on this station wanted to start a war?" Tereya nodded grimly. "Yes, and they almost succeeded. But there's more. The people behind this, they're not just Elverian or human. They're a mix of both, people who have been secretly pulling strings for years." Jamal frowned, stepping closer to the console. "Are you telling me that there's a conspiracy inside the station's command?" Tereya sighed, her shoulders slumping slightly. "Yes, the highest level of the station's security has been compromised. The sabotages, the false guards, the mistakes, everything. They were all orchestrated by a group of insiders. I found out too much, and that's why I had to hide." Marcus's mind raced. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. "How do we stop them? We can't let this continue." Tereya shook her head. "We can't stop them alone. They've already infiltrated too many systems. They control communication, access to resources, and now the diplomatic processes. The only way to stop them is to expose everything." Marcus looked at Jamal, who seemed lost in thought. "We need proof," Jamal said, his voice firm. "Tereya, can you get us access to their main files? If we can get the evidence to the right people, we can shut them down." "I can try," Tereya said, nodding. "But I need your help. They've locked me out of the main control systems. If I can get to their central terminal, I can upload the truth to the entire station." Marcus felt a surge of determination. "Then we'll get you there." Jamal glanced between Marcus and Tereya, then nodded. "Let's move. The longer we stay here, the more time they have to stop us." Tereya turned to the terminal, working quickly to bring up a map of the station's secure areas. "There's a way through the old security channels. We can access the central terminal from there, but it's heavily guarded. We'll need to be careful." Jamal cracked his knuckles. "We don't have the luxury of being careful. We'll move fast, and we'll stick together." Marcus felt a sense of unity in that moment. Despite the fear, despite the danger, they had a plan. They had a chance to stop the conspiracy and save the peace. Tereya finished working on the console and turned back to them. "The path is set, but we'll need to act quickly. The moment I access their central terminal, we'll be exposed." "Let's go," Jamal said. Without another word, they all moved as one, ready to confront the shadowy forces within the station that threatened to tear everything apart. The station's hallways felt colder now, the metal walls reflecting the tension that weighed heavily on Marcus, Jamal, and Tereya as they moved through the lower levels. Every corner they passed, every step they took, felt like a countdown to something bigger than any of them had ever expected. Terea led the way, her movements quick but deliberate. She had a plan, an escape route that would take them through the old service tunnels, hidden from the security cameras. It wasn't perfect, but it was their only chance to reach the central terminal and expose the conspiracy that threatened both their worlds. "We have to be quick," Terea whispered as they moved through a narrow passage, keeping close to the walls. "The moment they realize I've accessed their files, they'll lock down the entire station." Jamal nodded, his expression tense. "We need to move faster then. If we're seen, this will all be for nothing." Marcus, who had been silent for a while, couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. It was strange. He couldn't see anyone, hear any footsteps, yet something told him they weren't as alone as they seemed. His instincts were on edge, but he pushed the thought aside. There was no time for doubts now. They reached a sealed door near the end of the tunnel. Terea stepped forward, her fingers dancing across a hidden keypad. The door clicked open with a soft hiss, and they stepped into a small, dimly lit control room. "This is it," Terea said. "I'll need a minute to access the terminal." Jamal stood by the door, keeping watch. Marcus moved to the side, glancing at the screens lining the walls. Most of them were old, barely functioning, but Terea quickly found the central control interface. She tapped a few keys, and the screen flickered to life. "This will take a few moments," Terea murmured, her eyes fixed on the screen. Marcus paced back and forth, his mind racing. How had things gotten this far? How had they ended up in this position? All he'd wanted was to help with the peace talks, to be part of something bigger. Now they were trying to stop a conspiracy that could destroy everything. The silence in the room felt deafening. Terea's fingers moved quickly, the only sound coming from the soft hum of the machines around them. "Almost there," Terea said, her voice steady despite the pressure. Suddenly, the door behind them slid open with a sharp sound. Marcus spun around, his heart racing. A figure stepped into the room. It was Jarek, the same mysterious figure Marcus had seen in the footage, the one who had been tampering with the station's systems. "You shouldn't have come here," Jarek said, his voice cold and full of menace. Terea froze, her hand still on the console. "You? I've been waiting for this," Jarek continued, taking a step forward. "You were always going to be the problem. Too much power, too much knowledge. It was always going to end like this." Marcus took a step back, his mind trying to catch up. You're the one behind all this." Jarek smiled, a cold, twisted smile that made Marcus's skin crawl. "Yes, I've been controlling things from the shadows, making sure the peace talks failed. You see, the old alliances were never meant to survive. The Elverians, the humans, you were always too different, too divided. Now we're going to fix that. Our way." Terea stood tall, her eyes narrowing. "You think you can control everything, Jarek. You're wrong. This station, this peace, it means more than your petty schemes." Jarek's smile faded. He took another step forward, his hand resting on the weapon at his side. "You'll find out just how wrong you are." The room was thick with tension. Marcus's hand instinctively moved to the side, ready to defend himself. He knew they were outmatched here. Jarek had the upper hand, and he had backup. But there was something about Terea that gave him hope. "Jarek, listen," Marcus said, his voice steady. "You can still stop this. We don't need to fight. We can expose you. The truth will come out, and you'll lose." Jarek's eyes gleamed with cold amusement. "The truth? Do you honestly think anyone will believe you? I've already made sure that won't happen. I've already won." Before Marcus could react, Jarek's hand shot out, pressing a button on his wrist device. The door slammed shut, locking them in. Terea's eyes flared with anger. "You're not getting away with this." Marcus moved quickly, grabbing a metal rod from a nearby workbench. He swung it at Jarek, who effortlessly dodged the strike. The fight was too quick, too dangerous. Marcus felt out of his depth. But then, something unexpected happened. The door behind them clicked open again, and a new figure entered the room. It was Officer Jamal. But he wasn't alone. He was flanked by two other officers, both armed, their faces determined. "We've got you now, Jarek," Jamal said, his voice unwavering. Jarek froze, his eyes darting around the room. "How did you? You thought you were the only one with a plan." Jamal stepped forward, his team at his back. "We've known about you for a while, Jarek. You weren't as careful as you thought." Marcus looked at Taria, who was watching the scene unfold with quiet relief. It was over. The truth was out. They had stopped the sabotage. Jarek's face twisted with rage, but it was clear he had no way out. "You think you've won? This is just the beginning." Jamal shook his head. "No, this is the end for you." With that, the officers moved in, securing Jarek and his device. The conspiracy was finally over. Marcus let out a long breath, his body finally relaxing. They had done it. Against all odds, they had stopped a disaster from tearing their worlds apart. As the officers took Jarek away, Jamal turned to Marcus and Taria. "It's over. The station's secure. You two, you're heroes." Taria gave a small, modest smile. "We're just doing what needed to be done." Marcus felt a sense of pride swell inside him. They had done it. They had saved the peace. Later, after all the reports were filed and the station's crew started cleaning up, Marcus found himself sitting alone in his room, staring out at the stars. His thoughts drifted back to Taria, the brave, intelligent Elverian who had changed everything. Just as he was about to close his eyes, there was a knock at the door. He opened it to find Taria standing there, her expression soft. "I never thanked you," she said quietly, "for everything." Marcus smiled, a warmth spreading in his chest. "You don't need to. I couldn't have done it without you." She nodded, her eyes filled with quiet respect. "Then, maybe it's time for us to start over. Together." Marcus met her gaze. He didn't have an answer right away. But one thing was clear. This was only the beginning of their journey. And no matter what came next, he knew they would face it together.